For me, I'm gonna say for now, this is an overreaction.
Buried him in the turf with his chin strap around his nostrils. He calls a timeout. Good wherewithal by Eli.
Great wherewithal.
Put this to music. I don't think he stepped out either. That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen.
What's cracking, y'all? It's been a little while here, man. Welcome into another giant overreaction, the Hard Knocks edition one time. Just wanted to come in and tap in with the fan base, man, and just see the temperature, see how y'all feeling about this show tonight. I was extremely excited. Figure, what a better way to just kill an hour than, come on live, maybe test out this new setup I'm working with here, test out some audio, man, and talk some Giants football, man. So big salute to y'all. I see a lot of people already in the building, man. Jameson is in the building. What's going on, brother? Hope all is well. Marjorie is in the building. What's going on, Queen? Hope all is well. I hope you excited and ready for tonight, man. I know I am. Tonight is going to be extremely just a little nerve-wracking, because I'm hoping that the Giants will release a little bit of information that we're not privy to. Maybe we get a little bit of surprise here. Maybe something about Saquon, maybe something about the Wink Martindale situation. Maybe just a little bit of tea. I see a lot of people on my Twitter timeline are getting a little bit impatient. Shout out to the beard. I see you in the building. You see I set myself up on the stream all by myself, my brother. You know what it is, man. Big salute to my co-host one time in the building. So I figured, why not just pop up, talk a little Giants football for maybe like a good 45 minutes to an hour. And for those of y'all that are struggling, to find a way to watch this, I'm not saying there isn't a link pinned to this stream, but I'm not saying that there is. But allegedly, you can find a way to watch it if you check out that stream that's pinned at the top of this one. For all of you people out there that don't have, access to the Hard Knocks show tonight. So I've been trying to do, play my best middleman type of way I could on Twitter and trying to help people out and whatnot. And it's been a busy day, man. Like I literally just scarfed down some quesadillas my shorty made me. Shout out to her for that. With like 5 minutes to go on the stream and whatnot. So, just getting things done, trying to, play my part in the New York Giants community. But I did want to talk a little bit about what's been going on in the offseason. I haven't had a chance to really tap in with y'all and really talk, mini camp, getting ready for training camp here at the end of July. It's crazy it's July already. I mean, it's just flown by so fast. The draft came and went. Free agency came and went. I got a birthday coming up in a couple of days here. I'm going to be turning 41. It's like, man, time is just flying by. And as much as I want to get on, on YouTube and do streams, it just seems like, the topics just aren't quite right. And I don't want to force content. So, today I figured was a good day to at least just kind of come in here, check out the vibes, and just politic with y'all. Shout out to Lucas, man. I see you all the way across the pond, brother. Hope all is well. I see all the OGs in the building, man. Shout out to all of y'all, man. And we're going to get back to doing our streams pretty more frequent as training camp comes along here. And for those of y'all that don't know, I'm working on a documentary right now that's going to detail some of the training camp stuff. Me and the Beard are going to be going to Washington training camp, New York training camp, and the Philadelphia Eagles training camp. If Dallas wasn't so far, I'd probably make it to Dallas as well. But we're definitely going to be tackling those 3 training camps to start off the first episode of a documentary that we're working on. And, tonight with the Hard Knocks thing, it's just very inspiring to see what HBO has been able to do with that series and trying to, almost use that as a way to study what they're doing to try to figure out what we're going to do for our documentary. So it's going to be It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I think this is going to be our most busy offseason. And then throughout the season, we're also going to be doing a couple more series within this documentary as well. Going to be interviewing some fans that are local, some fans from New York as well, some other Giants content creators. Got a word from a couple of beat writers that are going to be involved in this as well. And if you haven't seen the trailer, I should have loaded up the trailer so we could have shown it today. But if you haven't seen the trailer, go ahead and check that out one time. It's on our YouTube channel. So big shout out to all of y'all, man, again, for pulling up, rocking out with y'all, boy. Y'all know what this is, man. It's the Giant Overreaction one time. So let's talk a little ball here, man. Tonight, we got the Hard Knocks and whatnot, and I've been doing some streams over there on Bleacher Report, and we've been talking about a couple of topics within the New York Giants community and whatnot. And I do think that there are a lot of question marks coming into the season. And shout out to Bobby from Talking Giants. I know after Hard Knocks tonight at 9 p.m., Talking Giants is going to be going live, but I just did a pre-recorded stream with them just the other day. And me and Bobby got to talk a little bit about, some of the worries that we have going into the offseason. So I figured that'll be a good way to kind of get some of this conversation sparked off and, just talk about some of the things that are going on with the New York Giants in the offseason right now. And the first thing I want to talk about here is the offensive line rotation. So Jermaine Illuminor, he was quoted saying he is focusing solely on the left guard position since that is where the team put him. And I'm the kind of person that, especially when it comes to Joe Schoen, I like to take him for his word now. Joe Schoen is not, we've been here and done that. I've seen on Twitter pre-draft, everyone was saying, what do you expect him to say? He's going to draft a quarterback. Joe Schoen came out, he said, we're going to address the quarterback position in free agency. That's exactly what he did. Went out there, got himself Drew Lock. When it came to talking about quarterbacks in the draft, he kind of left it open-ended, said that they were going to address all positions in the draft. And they did that. This was a very, I would say, position-needy type of draft because we lost Xavier McKinney. We went out there, we drafted a safety in the second round. We lost Adoree Jackson. We went out there, we drafted a cornerback in the third round. Darren Waller went into retirement. We went out there, we drafted Theo Johnson in the fourth round. We lost Saquon Barkley to free agency to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know a lot of people are upset about that. And in the fifth round, the Giants went out there and drafted a running back. So I've seen some people trying to debate whether or not the Giants have drafted BPA or if they went for positional value. And I think it was a lot of positional value. And offensive line, we didn't draft anybody in the trenches in this entire draft. And that did bother me. But at least we went out there and we tried to get some proven players in free agency. And we brought in John Runyon. We brought in Aaron Stinney. And we brought in my guy, Jermaine Illuminor. I'm sure that when y'all saw some of the streams we were doing pre-free agency, I was talking about Jermaine Illuminor literally the day after Carmen Brasillo was hired. Now, the part that is very puzzling to me is I thought that they were going to bring in Jermaine Illuminor to come in and play right tackle. And like I said, I'm going off their words, and Jermaine Illuminor is saying he's focusing on playing left guard. And in minicamp, they had him taking all his reps at left guard. Now, Jermaine Illuminor has only taken 11 snaps at the left guard position in his entire career. I want to say he's been in the league for about 6-7 years now. Played a couple of years with the Ravens, a couple of years with the Patriots, and then a couple of years with the Las Vegas Raiders. Each one of those teams started off Jermaine Illuminor at the guard position where he struggled. If you go and you look at his PFF grades, I wish I had them handy, but I do know that all of his PFF grades were under 62 when he was playing the guard position. And when they moved him to right tackle, all of his PFF grades shot up over 65. He had all of his best years at the right tackle position. So I thought they were going to bring in Jermaine Illuminor to be a, security blanket and insurance policy for Evan Neal. And that was not the case, or that's not looking like the case right now. When I see Jermaine Illuminor saying that that's where he's focused, to me, that does not say that they're using Jermaine Illuminor as a mentor type of piece and maybe going to figure out where to put him later. And I'm a little worried about this because this will now be the second year in a row that we're going into the season banking on Evan Neal to really solidify this offensive line. There aren't many offensive lines that have a bookend left tackle like Andrew Thomas and are struggling up front the way that the Giants have been struggling up front for the past decade, you could say. And we just got rid of Bobby Johnson as our offensive coordinator, or as our offensive line coach. Shout out to the Beard because Bobby Johnson went down there to Washington, and he got himself a job in Washington. And we brought in Carmen Brasillo, and we're hoping that Carmen Brasillo can do a better job up front with this offensive line and maximize the potential that we have and all the draft capital that we have spent from Marcus McKeithen to Joshua Zidu to Andrew Thomas to Evan Neal to JMS and maximize those players and hopefully find a way to get this offensive line in good shape so that by the time we start to get to the season and we're taking snaps with Daniel Jones under center, we can find a way to protect him. And we know that Daniel Jones is not the kind of quarterback that's going to go out here and be extremely mobile from the lateral perspective and make a lot of guys miss. So for me, the offensive line is the unit that has to gel correctly for the New York Giants to have any type of success. I tweeted this out a couple of weeks back. I think that this could be an egregious mistake by Brian Daboll by not just starting off the year with your best players in the best positions. Right tackle is extremely important. Another thing I looked at on PFF with the quarterbacks, because a lot of people like to debate that Tyrod Taylor had a better offensive line during the year than Daniel Jones did. Each of them played 2 games with Andrew Thomas at the left tackle position. And right tackle was a struggle all year long, even when Evan Neal was healthy. They brought in Justin Pugh to come in and play a little bit of guard and a little bit of tackle as well. And some people like to credit the success of Tyrod Taylor to that. But when you look at the statistics, Daniel Jones had the most pressures that led to a sack by all of the Giants quarterbacks. 20% of his pressures were caused by himself. And with the other quarterbacks, they were all under 13. Now, right tackle was the one position that when you look at all the grades across the board, they were worse for Daniel Jones. So I got to give, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt there. But at the end of the day, we're having a quarterback come in here off of an ACL, and we know he's not going to be, if anything, he's going to be a tick less mobile than he was in his previous seasons coming off this ACL. And, quarterbacks coming back off the ACL, it's been mixed reviews. You've seen Kyler Murray take forever to get back from that ACL. A year and some change. He ended up coming back in about week 10. You've seen guys like Phillip Rivers play in the playoffs on a torn ACL. Carson Palmer, Carson Wentz, RG3, the Beard knows all about that situation. One good year from RG3 with that ACL. He was one of the better mobile quarterbacks in the entire league, breaking off 80-yard runs, tears the ACL and some change because I know some more ligaments in his knee also got damaged as well. And RG3 was never the same player ever again and ended up losing his job at the end of the next season. So there's mixed reviews on what's going to happen with Daniel Jones as far as the mobility goes. But up front, I thought it would have been just a better plan to go with a guy like Jermaine Illuminor, who with the Raiders had a great season last year. He's allowed 6 sacks the whole time he was playing right tackle for the Raiders. 3 of them came against Khalil Mack when they played the Chargers when he had 6 sacks in one game. So for me, I'm just looking at this like, you got to trust the coaches, right? But at the end of the day, I just think that if the New York Giants offensive line does struggle, I think that we're going to be able to look back at this moment and go, well, why didn't we just start Jermaine Illuminor right off the bat? And we start the year off with I won't say an easier start, but, we got some games up front that I feel like we can win. And let me pull that up real quick. When you look at the schedule from the New York Giants, top row first, you start off with the Vikings, and then you go into Washington. And to me, those are 2 winnable games. I'm not saying that we're going to win those games, but I do think that those are winnable games. And then you got the straight trenches of our schedule here when you're looking at the Browns, Cowboys, Seahawks, Bengals, Eagles. And the Steelers are a team that won 10 games last season with Kenny Pickett at quarterback, and he only threw 6 passing touchdowns the entire year. So now you coming into a team that has better quarterback play with Russell Wilson, possibly Justin Fields, but I'm expecting Russell Wilson, but you never know what could happen by the time we get up there to, week 7, week 8 and whatnot. And I just look at that stretch of our schedule, very similar to what our stretch was last year when we went through the trenches and we played teams like San Francisco, Seattle, Buffalo. Who else was there? Miami was in that stretch. And the Jets were in that stretch, who I looked at them as going to be a tough team as well until Aaron Rodgers ended up going down after 4 snaps. I just don't want to get to week 6, week 7, and Brian Daboll and the New York Giants are still trying to figure out what's going on up front with this offensive line and not going in with a solidified unit. And I do think that that's something that we're going to look back at and possibly be like, that could have been a mistake. We've seen Joe Schoen in the past try to bank on youthful talent up front, draft and develop, which the New York Giants have had so much trouble having, not just during the Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll era. This dates back way before them. And we have not developed those players. And that offensive line fell extremely short. They've spent a ton of capital on the offensive line, a 2nd rounder with JMS, a top 10 pick with Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas being a 1st rounder. Joshua Zito was a top 100 pick. Joshua Zito, there are so many players that were on the board at the time that the New York Giants drafted Joshua Zito and Cordero Flott in that draft that, it haunts me in a way, And same thing goes for the pick with Wan'Dale Robinson, who has panned out a little bit. Wan'Dale Robinson has shown you that when he's on the field and when he's healthy, he can definitely be a contributor. But I look at a guy like George Pickens over there with the Pittsburgh Steelers putting up 1,000 yards with Kenny Pickett, and I think, what if? And there are just a lot of players that were like that for me, in that draft. I was talking about this on Twitter just the other day, and the Beard knows about this, how much of a fan I am of Brian Robinson, who I think was the best player on that roster last year for the Washington Commanders. he was also drafted after Joshua Zedu and Cordero Flott. So just looking back at all this, we know that with Joe Schoen, the drafts have not been where Joe Schoen has shined. He has made some great moves, bringing in Bobby Okereke, now bringing in Brian Burns, who I'm extremely excited about, and plenty of moves that he has brought in, finding guys like Isaiah Hodgins out the woodworks to come out here and contribute to a playoff winning team. That was a great move. But when you look at these drafts and you don't have any superstars to account for in any of these Joe Schoen drafts, and now we're 3 drafts in, we haven't been able to obviously judge this draft class, and it looks like Malik Neighbors is going to be a wide receiver 1 that we can finally hang on to with Daniel Jones at the quarterback position. But these drafts have been, mediocre at best right now. Kayvon Thibodeau probably being the best player that Joe Schoen has drafted, and all the big money contracts coming from guys that Dave Gettleman brought in. So I do have my concerns, and, obviously offensive line up front is definitely one. Let me tap in and see what y'all talking in the chat one time here. Let me see. NYG season. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well, man. Salute to you for pulling up, rocking out with us. He says Illuminor and John Runyon are solid pass blockers. Yeah, man. Illuminor, definitely a solid pass blocker. John Runyon, solid starter over there with the Green Bay Packers for his entire tenure. And both these guys know how to stay healthy. That's something that, stood out to me as far as their profile is that they don't get injured. So hopefully they don't come over here to New York and get that bug. But I'm definitely with you on that. NYG season also said that Evan Neal is poor when it comes to movement and shouldn't be playing tackle. Yeah, a lot of people want to make that move with Evan Neal and try to bump him into the guard position, which I think would be a better move. I just think that I understand the position that Joe Schoen is in. It's difficult because you spent the top 10 pick on a guy in Evan Neal and you want it to work. They're trying their best. And when you look at Evan Neal's games started, it's not that high yet because he missed 10 games last year, missed almost the entire back half of the season. So he is still relatively wet behind the ears as far as, getting snaps and whatnot. But what we've seen from Evan Neal on that field has not been good. So I got to agree with you on that. The Beard says that Giants Twitter definitely let me know about Bobby Johnson yesterday. Yeah, I saw a lot of quote tweets. Shout out to my homie Jabri. He was clowning you for that one a little bit too. I think that that's going to be a good a gauge of what kind of offensive line coach Bobby Johnson is, and also where the New York Giants stand as far as, our offensive line talent and personnel. I think that's going to really show. Like, if you see this team come out here this year and struggle up front again, and Washington, who does not have a lot of dogs up front, we'll call them hogs in this case, up front, to protect Jaden Daniels right now, it's looking like y'all offensive line is not supposed to be that good. So if Bobby Johnson can go out there and find a way to salvage that offensive line, I think it's going to speak volumes for not only him as a coach, but also for what happened with him here with his tenure with the New York Giants. So that's definitely a good point there. Shout out to my homie Stan. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. Big Stan in the building one time, man. Appreciate you pulling up, man. Let me see what else. Word is in the building. What's going on, Word? Hope all is well, fam. Let me see. In Carrium's world, shout out to In Carrium's world, says Josh was drafted because they thought he would offer flexibility at the position. I think you're talking about Joshua Zedu. Yeah, I mean, I think Joshua Zedu right now is taking snaps as a swing tackle, and we saw him struggle a lot last year. I don't want to give up on the kid. He did deal with an injury, but I am curious why they didn't bring a couple of guys back on that offensive line. I know they're trying to revamp, but I thought Ben Bredesen was a pretty salvageable offensive lineman. Tyree Phillips, who we brought back after he was cut from our practice squad, signed with the Philadelphia Eagles, and it ended up being on their practice squad. We ended up pulling him from their practice squad to come play with us, and I thought he put out some pretty good reps there for us at the tackle position, especially when Andrew Thomas was banged up. So they kind of cleaned house as far as that offensive line and tried to keep all the good pieces there. I'm not mad at what they did. We'll see if it ends up paying dividends for the New York Giants. Born to be Hated is in the building. I like that name. What's going on, fam? Welcome to the gang, my guy. He says, I wouldn't sleep on Wan'Dale Robinson. He was injured his rookie year, but when he's played, he's cooked. Whoever has guarded him so far, I'm more confident with him more than Hyatt. Now, I'm definitely right there with you on that. Wan'Dale Robinson has shown that he can create great separation. He's got great hands. His ability to make plays after the catch is probably the best on this roster pre-Malik Neighbors. Half of Wan'Dale Robinson's yards came in yak last year, so we know what he can do once he gets the ball in his hands. I'm not sleeping on Wan'Dale Robinson, not one bit. I just think that personnel-wise, bringing in that kind of fit. I know they were kind of trying to exit the Sterling Shepard type of realm, but during that time, we were bringing in a bunch of shorter wide receivers. I'm not too upset about the Wan'Dale Robinson pick, but, just looking at it in hindsight, it just makes me think like what could have been. There are a lot of playmakers out there that got drafted to other teams, and it's much easier to do that in hindsight. So I'm right there with you. And we saw CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb had some great words about Wan'Dale Robinson, talking about he's one of the most slept-on wide receivers in the entire National Football League. So hoping that Wan'Dale Robinson can go out here and have a big year. I think he's poised to have a big year. It just all depends on how the target share goes. Last season, Darius Slayton led the Giants as far as wide receivers go in targets. I believe it was 71 targets, but I think Saquon led in targets as far as the entire pass catching room with 76. So, we're looking at Malik Neighbors coming in here trying to be a perennial wide receiver one. I would hope that he gets over 100 targets, but I'm curious as to what that's going to do for Wan'Dale Robinson. And we know that Malik Neighbors can, be effective from the outside, playing the X wide receiver as well, but also did big damage at LSU in the slot. So are they going to utilize him in the slot? And I think that when you move Neighbors to the slot position, I don't think that leaves much room for Wan'Dale Robinson to have snaps on the outside. You probably see Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton on the outside at times when Malik Neighbors is in the slot. So I'm really anxious to see how Brian Daboll puts this all together. Going into last year, I thought we were going to be a very run-heavy team. They came out, tried to pass the ball a good bit. Especially with Daniel Jones on the field and whatnot. He didn't push the ball down the field like I wanted him to, considering that we brought in a weapon like Jalen Hyatt, who I had high expectations for as well. But Jalen Hyatt has shown that he needs to develop the route tree. Hope he's been working on that in the offseason. He did bulk up a little bit, kind of came into the season looking a little bit more like me as far as the build goes in 2023. And now in 2024, you've seen him at these workouts kind of flexing a little bit. So hoping he's polished up the route tree a little bit and can do some of the intermediate stuff that Darius Slayton does. And I ultimately think that that's going to make Darius Slayton be the odd man out come 2025, unless, Darius Slayton goes out here and really puts pen to paper this season, which I can't say he hasn't done during his Giants tenure because he's been our leading receiver, I want to say all but 1 year that he's been here. And I always say that's a great thing for Darius Slayton, but that's not a great thing for the New York Giants. We got to find a way to get better pass catchers on the field. And now losing our best pass catcher from last season, the guy that they expected to kind of come in and play wide receiver one in Darren Waller, there's going to be some big shoes to fill along with him and along with Saquon Barkley. But yeah, definitely right there with you, Born to be Hated. Appreciate you pulling up, man, and rocking out with us today on this little pre-stream before Hard Knocks pops off. Marjorie says that Banks is good. Yeah, Banks was really good last year. A lot more on his shoulders this year. We'll see if he can hold up to that cornerback one, status. And I'm very, very worried about what's going on the other side of Deonte Banks. I'm very worried because right now they're talking about rolling out Cordero Flott at cornerback 2, and that's gonna be really interesting. Cordero Flott does not really impress me as a tackler. He doesn't have the physique really to bully some of these wide receivers at the line and get the jams on them and whatnot. But you're just hoping that these players are developing. And, just from our past, it just doesn't give me as much optimism as far as it goes for cornerback 2. And then also losing a guy like Xavier McKinney could pay dividends across the entire secondary. That was our captain. That was our leader. I ended up going back and looking at, I'm trying to think what game that was, but it was a play where there was a blown coverage right up the middle. And it was Xavier McKinney and Jason Pinnock at the safety position. And you could see Xavier McKinney pointing to the streak route going right down the middle. And Jason Pinnock just couldn't get to it. And we ended up getting burned for a deep touchdown. So just hoping that, with Tyler Nubin coming in, second round pick, that he can, I don't know if he's going to be able to fill those shoes immediately, but at least, be able to walk in those shoes that Xavier McKinney left out there with the New York Giants. Solving the race problems in the building. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. Says, good to see you back in the lab. Salute, Brody. Yeah, man, I've been dropping some videos and whatnot. I'm going to drop another video this week as well, but the lives, I just been feeling like it's not really that much to talk about. And I see a lot of other Giants content creators, pulling from the weeds to try to find stuff to talk about. And I just don't like forcing it. I like to give y'all high-level content that's engaging and, we talking about some good topics. And there really wasn't much in minicamp, man. These guys in shorts and helmets and whatnot, no shoulder pads, and just not a lot going on. So I've been doing a couple of streams over there on Bleacher Report. If you're not familiar, go ahead and check me out on Bleacher Report at Authentic. I'm there pretty much like 4 times a month and whatnot, doing streams for them as well. And also during the season, for those of y'all that don't know, we're going to be here 4 days a week like we do. Let me see who else is in the building one time. Austin Torek is in the building. He says, is there a way I can watch it tonight? I don't have Max. Yeah, I ain't trying to snitch on myself, but just take a look at the link that we got pinned on this stream, and you should be in the right direction right there. Fryer says, what's going on, fam? Hope all is well with you, my guy. Let me see. Solving the race problem says, I think we still need a lot of help in the secondary and another linebacker. Yeah. So if you saw I'm going to speak on the linebackers first. So if you saw the clip that came out, it was like a little bit of a teaser from the Hard Knocks thing that they showed at the Legends event that the New York Giants just did a couple of Thursdays back. They showed Shane Bowen breaking down his defense and the expectations for these players. He talked about the defensive line, and he said, look, we're going to set up a situation where the defensive line is able to pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. He talked about the inside linebackers having the most responsibility of anybody on this defense. If you look at the way Shane Bowen coached his defense when he was in Tennessee, he gets a lot of pressure with the front four. And when he doesn't, he sends a blitz from a second-level player, usually the nickel cornerback, and he'll take one of those 4 pass rushers and drop them back into pass coverage. It's known as a creeper blitz, or it's also known as a fireside blitz if you send 5. Now, he talked about the emphasis on these inside linebackers. Now, last year in the Wink Martindale scheme, Micah McFadden was really just a guy that could just get after the run, try to stop the run. His role was very designated, and he knew what he had to do. And I think with more responsibility on Micah McFadden's shoulders, we're going to really get to see this year what kind of player he is, because before Bobby Okereke got here, Micah McFadden wasn't looking to be all that great. I know he was young, he was a rookie, but he definitely did not hit the ground running. And then we brought in Bobby Okereke, and it was like night and day. He was a different player. So hoping to see Micah McFadden raise his level of play. Played great last year. I love what I saw out of him, but going to be more responsibility on him this year. And both of these edge rushers that we got with Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns, both of them being speed edge rushers, I'm a little concerned about that too, because y'all know last year we had trouble stopping the run. I think the Giants were ranked 27th or 29th against the run last year. And that's been our problem for a very long time. At least 5 years we've had trouble stopping the run. Outside of that 1 year where Patrick Graham had a top 10 defense, I think that was 2020. So a lot more responsibility on a lot more of these players. He didn't talk about responsibility on the edge, but when it comes to stopping a run, Kayvon Thibodeau is going to have to step up and be a difference maker and a different type of player, I feel like, as well. Much more just show his strength at that line. And, when he's meeting up with some of these linemen, he's going to have to find a way to get off of these blocks and get to the running backs and be able to stop this run. We already know what we're going to have up front with Dexter Lawrence, but we are kind of missing, a D tackle to be next to him in this scheme. 2 of them, to be honest. I don't even know who they're going to put out there. There's Ryder Anderson. There's a few other guys that Shane drafted and that were on this roster as well. Nunez Roches is another guy. I don't know who they're going to put at those 3 techs, so we'll see how that goes too. I am a little bit worried about how the Giants are going to stop the run. The secondary, spoke on it a little bit. Losing Xavier McKinney, we're really going to see his value on this defense. I thought Xavier McKinney was a top 5 safety, possibly a top 3 safety in this league. Got the big bag to go over there to Green Bay. The Giants didn't want to pay him the money. And the thing that bothers me just a little bit about the way that Joe Schoen has been operating thus far is it seems like every time we get a new weapon or every time we, upgrade the roster, we lose a piece, and it's like, okay, we got a guy in Tyler Nubin, and now he's got to replace one of the better players on our defense. And I think you could do that across this roster, and you see it. You lose Saquon Barkley when you add Malik Neighbors. I think it would have been much better on a guy like Daniel Jones if you would have had a guy like Darren Waller out there with Saquon Barkley, with Malik Neighbors, with Wan'Dale Robinson healthy, and possibly adding a guy like Tyrone Tracy in the mix to be like a gadget guy that could go out there and get a couple of pass catches out of the backfield. You can't forget Tyrone Tracy being a former wide receiver. Very, very fresh tread on those tires when it comes to Tyrone Tracy. He has only played 1 year at running back. That was his 6th year in college, and that was his only year at running back. So, that's the one beef I got. It's like every time we add a great piece, we're losing another piece. And you just got to hope that Joe Schoen is correct in spending the dollars the right way, because now we're looking at back-to-back seasons where Joe Schoen has been a top 10 spender as far as salary cap goes. Obviously, the first year he couldn't spend any money, and the Giants were in the bottom 3 of spending coming out of the Dave Gettleman era. But now we're talking about 2 seasons where the Giants have been top 10 spenders. Okay, we got to get some results now. We can't keep preaching patience to the fan base, in year 3. I think now it's time to get some results. And to be honest, the roster does not scream they're going to get results. So I'm just playing it pretty pessimistic. I know, over here on this channel, I always say we're not going to be pessimistic, we're not going to be optimistic, but we're going to keep it funky and be realistic. But it's very hard to even be realistic going into this season, to be honest. I can admit that I've been extremely pessimistic in this offseason, and I'm just hoping that the Giants can come out here and surprise, man. That's all you can really ask for, to be honest. Shout out to Kai001 in the building one time. He said, "What up, fam? Ready for this season and looking forward to some competitive games against your Giants." I hope you're right, man. If y'all don't know, Kai's a Cowboys fan, and them games ain't been that competitive as of late. But big shout out to Kai for pulling up in the building. Good to see all y'all, man. It's been a while. It's definitely been a while since we've done a live, and it's good to see all y'all. I see Sergeant Mayhem in the building. Vinny G-Man is in the building. He says, "I actually feel bad for Daniels. He looks like a number 2 pencil. I feel bad for him. He is going to get killed this year with that idiot offensive line coach. How you give up 85 sacks and get a job?" Okay, I like this one. This is a good one. We were talking about offensive line earlier. So, yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. So, Bobby Johnson. This is going to be a good testing year for not only him, but everybody on that Washington roster. And y'all know we cover the East. Best co-host in the country. We're going to be talking about all these games by the week. And this is what I think about Jaden Daniels. Fantastic pocket presence. Fantastic pocket presence. Yes, he has a smaller frame, but it's not like he's a short-statured quarterback. He can definitely see the field. I don't know if you saw about the testing that they were doing with him at LSU. These memory tests that he was working on, that he credited to the reason why he became such a better passer in his last couple of years there when he was with LSU, and the transition from when he was at Arizona. So I don't know, man. I think that he's going to be just fine. I have faith in Cliff Kingsbury to be able to adjust a little bit to the modern NFL. If you haven't seen the video that Brett Coleman did on the Washington Commanders and the rest of the NFC East, he's been releasing videos on Bootleg Football about each team. Every couple of days you get a new video from them, and they're just fantastic, full of information. But he was also talking about Cliff Kingsbury and how much he's going to be able to protect Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position. Cliff Kingsbury, he ran a lot of 4 wide receivers over there with Kyler Murray. I do think he's going to change that up a little bit. They brought in Austin Eckler at the running back position. They also brought in a couple of linemen from the Dallas Cowboys. They drafted a guard. I think Washington is going to be just fine. To me, they look like about a 7 to 9 win team right now. But it is going to be nice to see them in the preseason, along with the New York Giants, to just kind of see how these players, the new players, adjust to the speed and adjust to the scheme and adjust to the system to see how they're going to play. But 85 sacks, to speak on that, look at it like this. Tyrod Taylor took the most snaps, and me and Abir were talking about this on Twitter recently. Tyrod Taylor took the most snaps and most dropbacks of any quarterback on the New York Giants roster last year, and he was sacked the fewest times. I always say it on this channel. Y'all already know what it is. A decisive quarterback is an offensive lineman's best friend, and I do think that Jaden Daniels is a decisive quarterback. He's the kind of guy that it'll remind me a lot of Daniel Jones in 2022, but with much more lateral athleticism. But as far as comparing to Daniel Jones, what I'm saying is if the first read, maybe the second read is not there, Jaden Daniels is going to try to take off. So I expect him to have a ton of rushing yards this year. He's going to have to figure out how to slide. We did see him get banged up a little bit at LSU. There was one time where he tried to hurdle a safety, and it's the biggest hit I've ever seen on a quarterback coming out of college as a high prospect like that. So the awareness does need to get up there. But I think that Jaden Daniels is going to adjust to the NFL speed a bit like Justin Fields did. And if you look at how Justin Fields kind of came into the league, he looked a little bit more slender as well. C.J. Stroud as well looked a little bit slender and then got to the league and bulked up. And it already looks like Jaden Daniels has been in the weight room a little bit. He's not the only player over there in Washington that needs to bulk up too. Speaking on Emmanuel Forbes, playing that cornerback position, another first-round pick who he's going to have to bulk up as well. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to be fine. You got to think about it, man. Like 60, 65, some of the 65 sacks were on Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones. 20% of those sacks credited to Daniel Jones' fault. You know, I can't say definitively that that's on Bobby Johnson. I mean, we had poor offensive line play. We know that. We weren't one of the better offensive lines for sure. But a lot of quarterbacks in this league with good offensive lines or, that excelled, they also got sacked a lot this past season too. Baker Mayfield was one of them. Dak Prescott was another one. So I think guys are going to get hit in the NFL. It does seem like the defensive lines have a little bit of an advantage over the modern type of build that we see from offensive linemen these days. But it's up to the quarterback to be decisive, get rid of that ball fast, and, just know where you're going with it. Be quick through your reads. And I think that's why C.J. Stroud saw so much success last year, even with having 6 offensive linemen on the IR before they got to their bye. And he still found a way to just be able to excel with not the greatest running game over there in Houston either, even though they did commit to the run, but their leading rusher was Devin Singletary, and he put up like somewhere around 800 yards. So I think Jaden Daniels is going to be fine, but we'll see how that one goes. Let me see who else is in the building one time. Born to be Hated says, I think DT specifically at 3 tech is going to be our worst position on defense. Yeah, right there with you, bro. Fryer says, where do you rank our front 7 on defense out of the 32 other teams? I'm, just kind of like winging it. I'd have us somewhere between like 8 and 17, something like that. I'd have to go look at every other roster. Love what we have at the edge. Love what we have, in Dexter Lawrence at the nose tackle position. And Bobby Okereke is one of the better linebackers in the league. But I think, outside of that, it gets a little bit weaker. And the depth on this defense is where I think we really lacking for sure. Shout out to the heavyweight champion in the building one time. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. Let me see what we got here. Harrison Bryan is in the building. Harrison Bryan says, do you have any personal interest who could be available on 53-man cut down day? Let me think. Who could be a cut candidate? The only guy I could think of right now off the top of my head that might be a cut candidate might be Darnay Holmes. Even though they brought him back, I do think he's a guy. Keep your eyes on some of the wide receivers, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Allen Robinson, who I don't know what we're going to get out of Allen Robinson. He was semi-productive with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I would keep my eye on him. He's possibly another cut candidate. Some of these guys up front on the offensive line that are buried deep down on that depth chart, definitely you got to keep your eyes on them. But I think the solid unit, some of the guys like Aaron Stinney, you can expect him to be on the roster as well. They parted ways with so many offensive linemen. I don't know who they're going to cut this year, but I would just say Darnay Holmes and probably some of these wide receivers. We're so thin at cornerback. I don't see us cutting anybody really in that department. We're thin, man. This roster's thin and don't have a lot of depth. So we'll see where Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, take the direction of this Giants team come time to cut. But I'm looking forward to seeing training camp. I think we'll get a better gauge when these guys get shoulder pads on and be able to see who's really excelling in camp. The beat writers for the Giants, I do think do a good job of that, of just like spreading the news about who is shining in these practices once they get the pads on. And you got to just trust and rely that they're going to be giving us the right information. So that's where I'm at with that. Let me see. Semi says, I'm excited for the Hard Knocks, see what really happened with Saquon. Yeah, this is the thing. Hard Knocks are not going to paint the New York Giants in a terrible light, right? They're going to keep it funky. It's going to be some of the best storytelling you see. And, when you've seen the previous Hard Knocks, you know what's up. It's just some of the best cinematography. And me as an aspiring director, I cannot wait to see this show tonight. But, yeah, I think it's going to be good. They did kind of tease at it in the trailer. And, I just hope it's not like a movie where like they tease you in the trailer and then you get to the scene and you're like, what a letdown. So hopefully they give us some of the goods and give us some of the information on the Saquon Barkley situation. That's going to be great. And I honestly cannot wait till the regular season begins because I'm looking forward to covering the Eagles again this year with Saquon over there. And you can't forget Paris Campbell's over there with the Eagles too. So that's going to be fun seeing 2 fellow New York Giants, going up against some of the division rivals and whatnot, and being able to keep our eyes on them. Let me see. Semi said, Joey, the Hard Knocks is on at 10. Yup, Hard Knocks is on. They're airing it on cable at 10. But if you got Max, the subscription, you can stream it at 9 o'clock. So I'm probably going to end this stream probably around 8:50. I might pull a little shady move and just kind of just leave the camera pointed at my screen when I watch the 9 o'clock version and just see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not trying to get this channel flagged. We've definitely put in a lot of work to get to where we're at. And shout out to all of y'all for getting us over 4,000 over this season break as well, too. I see Gregory's in the building. What's going on, fam? Hope all is well with you, my guy. Marjorie clearing that up. Let me see what else we got. Relic says, it's not being pessimistic. They have to prove they know what the F they're doing. It's common sense. Yeah, it really is. And, I do think that our fan base is a bit sensitive, and I do get that on Twitter a lot when I'm being critical. I posted a clip of JT O'Sullivan doing his quarterback school stream just a couple of days ago, and I asked him, I said, what do you think about the New York Giants quarterback room? And he really had no words. He just laughed, and he pretty much said, man, good luck to y'all. I don't think either one of those guys in the room are the future for the New York Giants. And I posted the clip on my Twitter, and people were just, all in their feelings, attacking JT O'Sullivan, for his lack of an NFL career and how it didn't go the way that he wanted. And, I'm the kind of person that's like, why y'all shooting a messenger? He's just giving an opinion, and I'm sure he knows more about the game than most of us do. So, I like to get that insight from people that have played the position, at the highest level. There have only been about 750 to 800 NFL quarterbacks take a starting snap in the entire history of the league, and JT O'Sullivan is one of them. So being that he's willing to share his knowledge with us, I love that. And you're right about that. It is common sense, but I think a lot of people in 2024, even though this is the information age, and every time people respond to you, they're holding a computer in their hands, people just don't use common sense these days, and that's a damn shame. But that's a great point you make right there, Relic. Shout out to the homie Stanley one time in the building. He says, hey, Authentic, the experts have the Giants, Broncos, Titans, and Carolina Panthers as the worst teams in the NFL. So what's your thoughts? Right now, when you look at the roster, barring any type of surprise, I do think the Giants are a bottom third team, definitely. The Panthers made a lot of upgrades this year. Drafted my guy, Xavier Legette. I forget the other wide receiver they drafted too. They spent some high capital and drafted another wide receiver. You bringing back guys like Thielen. And I think Bryce Young is after 1 year, a little bit of experience, he should be a better quarterback this year. But I expect them to be one of the bottom type of teams. The team I think a lot of people sleeping on that you named there is the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis going into his second year might surprise a lot of people. And DeAndre Hopkins went out there and put up 1,000 yards last year. I like what I've seen out of Traylon Burke when he can stay healthy and whatnot. I like that roster. And I just posted some clips from Malik Willis, man, who only got to play 5 passing downs last season. But he looked pretty good in those passing downs. He was 4 for 5 for like 80 yards and a touchdown on the ground. And his decisiveness in the pocket looked much better. And I really want to see Malik Willis get a shot. A lot of Giants fans like to throw shade at him because a lot of other Giants fans wanted the Giants to draft him, especially when he fell to the 3rd round. That's that same draft with Cordero Flott and Joshua Zidu 2 years ago. And I'd love to see him get a shot too, but I think people are sleeping on the Titans. I like what they did in the draft. Tajay Spears is a more than capable running back. Losing Henry's going to be tough, but I think Spears can definitely step up and fill that void as well. But Broncos, the Broncos look like possibly the worst team in the league, but you never know. Like going into last year, we thought the Houston Texans were going to be one of the worst teams in the league, and that definitely wasn't the case. The Houston Texans went out there and got to the playoffs, and I do think the Texans overachieved a little bit, but nonetheless, they found a quarterback and they found a coach and did a really good job. So that's why they play the games. I'm looking forward to seeing how things pan out. Week 1's going to be amazing. August 1st, the preseason starts. That'll be the Hall of Fame game, and I think that's when we'll get, a little bit of a, just a little glimpse into what the NFL season is going to look like when we get to preseason and whatnot. So, yeah, big shout out to Stanley, man. Appreciate you pulling up and rocking out with us. Born to be Hated says, no, I think Washington finishes 4th in the division. Somehow their O-line is worse than ours. Yeah, their O-line is in terrible shape. And, man, I think our O-line gets a really bad rap. Like, when you look at it personnel-wise, like, Andrew Thomas is solid up front. JMS, whose PFF grades looked terrible last year, but I thought he was holding up okay last year, at least when he was healthy. Got hurt for a little bit there. And then you bring in John Runyon and Jermaine Illuminor, and you just pray to God that Evan Neal can get it together. But it wouldn't surprise me if Washington finished 4th. I mean, so much turnover over there in that franchise, new coaches, new coordinators. I do think their defense is going to be better with the new coordinators over there and with Dan Quinn, calling that defense. New quarterback, they moved on from Sam Howell. I told a lot of our viewers, Sam Howell, once you saw that season come along, really wasn't a guy, just couldn't stop turning the ball over. But I do think they kind of parted ways with him a little quick. Could have kept him around as a backup. He was still on his rookie deal, but they did get draft capital for him, so you can't be mad at that. But Born to be Hated, it wouldn't surprise me if the Commanders finished last in the division. I really think it's either them or us. Cowboys and Eagles are still in a good place right now. But big shout out to you, fam. Jameson said he got dialysis tomorrow, man. We'll catch you later, Jameson. Be well, brother. Hope all is well, man. Shout out my guy Zeke one time in the building, man. Dropping that $20 super chat. He said, what up, beloved? Sticking with Neal at right tackle when you have a much better option on the roster in Jermaine Illuminor. Not having a lot of faith in who's calling the shots. I'm right there with you, fam. It's tough. Like, I don't want to, I don't want to, throw shade at Joe Schoen. And I do want to give him a fair shot, and I think I am. But, I think fans that are knowledgeable of the game they're going to question some of the moves, until they prove that they're working. And I think we got the right to do that. A lot of people just want to hear all positive takes and stuff like that on their team. And I'm not like that. I want to know the nitty gritty and I want to know the real, And so I try to question things and just speak on it from my perspective. Like, I'm not like, how can I put this? Like, it's weird the direction where YouTube is kind of going now. Like, it's almost like everybody's kind of copying the style of content and copying the way things are done. The presentations all kind of look the same. And I'm not in it to like mold in and kind of do what everybody else is doing. I just want to have a platform where like I can express my takes, go back and look at my takes, which I do all the time. The Beard will tell you, like, I'll just send him something like, bro, you was wild here. Or like, yo, look how spot on we were on this parlay show about fantasy football this week. These players hit, this guy hit. And I just want to be able to look back at my takes and look back at some of the content and also just get better at what I'm doing, while I'm streaming and while I'm cooking up content and trying to make better videos and whatnot. And I use my eye as the first gauge on that. But it is interesting. It just seems like in the Giants community, people just want to hear all positive thoughts. And I see this narrative going around on social media that's like, you're saying negative stuff about the team or you're sharing negative takes about the team because you want to have clickbait stuff and get engagement. I'm just like, my accounts aren't even monetized on none of my social media. And when you look at it, people don't even really like engaging with content that is not positive about their team. If I say something great about the quarterback situation, those are the posts that are going to go crazy. And I'm just not here for being in it for the likes. I'm just in it for, the life, as my man Chaz French would say. So shout out to Zeke, man. Appreciate you rocking with us. Zeke been supporting this channel for a long, long time, man. Big salute to you, sir, man. I hope you enjoy this Hard Knocks show tonight, man, like I am. Let me see. Fryer says, if Bryce Ford Wheaton is our wide receiver 5, I won't be mad. Yeah, he was making spectacular catches in camp. It was amazing seeing what Bryce Ford Wheaton was doing. Let me get this back up on here, too. I like Bryce Ford Wheaton. I like his stature. I like the way his catch radius is, the way he goes up and gets some of those balls and receives. He's just really good. It was really unfortunate to see him go down with the ACL injury before the season even started. Relic says that our O-line doesn't get a bad rep. They get a rep they rightfully deserve. Bill Parcells, I like that. You are what your record says you are. Yup, Parcells did say that. They had the record for sacks, and it was well-deserved. Yeah, they were terrible. They were definitely terrible. I'm right there with you on that. Definitely with you on that. Jose says, what's up, Authentic? What's going on, fam? Hope all is well with you, man. Hope you're ready for this Hard Knocks vibe. For those of y'all in the building, man, if you don't got an outlet to see Hard Knocks, just take a look at the posted linked stream at the top of this one, man, and it'll put you in the right direction. Big Blue Steph forever said, what up, Authentic? What's going on, fam? Hope all is well. So let's talk about a couple other things. I had a few other topics we could talk about. Didn't get to talk about the tight end position too much. Darren Waller retiring, I think, really sets us up for failure at the tight end position. And what's been really interesting about Joe Schoen since he's gotten here to New York is the way that they've addressed tight end every year that Joe Schoen has been here. First year he got here, they allowed Evan Ingram to walk in free agency, and he ended up showing, his skill set with the Jacksonville Jaguars, caught over 100 passes this past year, ended up getting paid the bag as well, and we ended up drafting Daniel Bellinger, and I was all good with that. Like in 2022, Daniel Bellinger showed that he was a serviceable tight end, decent blocker, not the greatest blocker, obviously. Was great when Daniel Jones had to run a little bit of play action, a little bit of boot, and be able to dump it off to him, especially when we got down to the red zone. And then Joe Schoen went out there and traded a 3rd-round pick to bring in Darren Waller the following season. And Daniel Bellinger's complete role was completely just relegated. And I thought that was a mistake. A rookie who was seeing a little bit of success was looking a bit like a Dawson Knox, good red zone, touchdown dependent type of tight end. You kind of pulled the legs out from underneath the table on him. I thought it was interesting. And I liked the move for Darren Waller, but I thought the Giants were going to run a little bit more 12 personnel when it came to using Daniel Bellinger and Darren Waller both on the field in 2 tight end sets. And they didn't do that. That was very surprising to me. And then, you come out here this year, and I'm sure they had a good understanding that Darren Waller was going to retire. So they spent 4th-round capital on Theo Johnson out of Penn State, who's a really good tight end, limited reps when he was over there. Every year he was there, he was battling for playing time with other tight ends. I want to say he was there even when Pat Freiermuth was still over there. And, just very limited productivity. He had about 30-some-odd catches, but he did tied for the lead in touchdowns on the Penn State roster in 2023. So I'm looking at him as being another guy that can be a touchdown-dependent type of tight end, and we need that here on this roster. But don't it kind of puzzle you that Joe Schoen is having to address the same position year after year after year? Defensive back has been the exact same way. Of all the draft picks that Joe Schoen has drafted, I think he's drafted like 9 defensive backs out of like 20-some-odd picks, and we're continuously dipping and dipping and dipping into these same categories of players. So to me, that just shows the failure in the moves that you have already presented previous to bringing in those players. So with Darren Waller retiring, I do think that there's a grand, wide open opportunity for the other 2 guys on the roster. I don't know who y'all think is going to take this position and be able to shine early on, but I like Theo Johnson as far as the build. The dude is like 6'7", 250, 260, something like that. Catch radius like a TJ Hawkinson. I don't think he's as athletic as a guy like that, but can definitely go up and get the catches and can go low and get the catches as well. Love his catch radius. Will it translate to the NFL level? I think he ran a 4.5 40 at the combine. I do think that the Giants might get back to a little bit more 12 personnel. They also brought back Lawrence Cager this year, who Brian Daboll made it a point to mention him in one of those press conferences, saying that Lawrence Cager's stepped up, looked like a better player in minicamp as well. But I don't got high expectations for Lawrence Cager, and he's also more of a receiving threat at the tight end position, not really a blocker. But I do think that one of these guys has an opportunity to take this job and solidify that tight end position for the New York Giants moving forward. We'll see. Shout out to Reggie Knight one time in the building. He has something to say on this tight end situation. He says if they don't experiment on tight end this year, then they don't like Bellinger. Yeah, and what are they going to do with a guy like that? Does a guy like Bellinger have any type of trade value if he doesn't put pen to paper this year? I doubt it. Maybe you get a 7th rounder or something like that for a guy like him. But Daniel Bellinger was drafted in the 4th round. And, I thought after 2022, we had pretty high expectations for him. I actually follow his father on Twitter, and he's always talking about, man, they need to give my son more opportunity. And I get it. That's Pops. Like, on all levels of football, Pop's going to be on the sideline screaming at the coach. Sometimes he's going to get in the coach's ear after the game and be like, yo, put my son in the game. But I kind of agree with him. Like, can we give Daniel Bellinger just a little bit more opportunity to make some plays out there? I think he had 30-some-odd catches both seasons that he's been with the Giants. But it's just been interesting. And the, decision to go out there last year and not run as much 12 personnel, I thought it was puzzling. I thought we were going to be a power team last year. We lacked wide receivers. And the year before that, even though we had success, we didn't do it through the air that much. Daniel Jones had 15 passing touchdowns, and most of our wins came on the back of Saquon Barkley. If you look at the way the Giants got to 7-1, 7-2, that was mostly on the back of Saquon Barkley. And Daniel Jones played his part. But I think without Saquon Barkley, there's no way in hell the Giants were going to get to the playoffs. And that's why I'm worried this year. I'm very worried because just look at how the New York Giants performed last year when Saquon Barkley was injured and not on the field, when you had to rely on guys like Matt Breida, who, is not on this roster anymore. But there were games where Matt Breida was averaging like 1.5 yards per carry in games that Saquon Barkley was not on the field. And with Eric Gray, they just have not given him much opportunity as well. And speaking on, drafting at one position and it not panning out, and then you go in and drafting at that same position again, if you look at Eric Gray, the same thing happened with him. It's like they're just drafting running back after running back. Every year, it seems like the Giants are trying to bring in a guy in the late rounds to be able to put some productivity out there, and it just doesn't work. From Gary Brightwell, who was just cut. I think Gary Brightwell was the last player from that draft. There might be one more player from that draft. I think it might be Azeez Ojulari. But Gary Brightwell, Eric Gray, and now Tyrone Tracy. It's like we got to find a way to bring in players and not only lock down these positions, but you got to give them opportunity to find out exactly what they are. And Eric Gray was really just utilized on kickoff as a returner, and he wasn't that good at returner. I don't remember Eric Gray being a kickoff returner in college. And when I went back and looked at his tape, I questioned that draft pick so much because Eric Gray was never really an explosive type of running back, to be honest. Word says that Singletary will step up. Says he got a dip later, man. Yo, enjoy the evening, man. This Hard Knocks is about to come on in about 9 minutes here. What I'm going to do is, for those of y'all that don't know, we got a link pinned to the top of this. That's going to be for the 10 o'clock version. because they're airing those on cable. The 9 o'clock version is going to come on Max. So all those people with Max, you get to see the early release of it at 9 o'clock. For those of y'all that don't got access, I'm giving it to you right there. I've been responding to DMs all day long, trying to help people and get them in the right direction because I know how important this is. I remember last year when the Jets were on Hard Knocks, I was so eager to see that. And I didn't have an HBO account and whatnot, and I was just like on the internet, scouring on the internet. I'm talking about like straight up on my like Neo vibes and finding streams that were going in and out and all that stuff. So I know how difficult that can be and whatnot. So, just wanted to just provide some value today and try to help people get in the right direction. And for those of y'all in the gang, man, I appreciate all y'all pulling up, rocking out. The fact that I could do a live stream just out of nowhere and all y'all show up like this is a blessing. And I think it's a nod to what me and the Beard have done on this channel. Big salute to the Beard, man. Definitely couldn't do this without him. His idea to start this whole thing, and now to be able to like supplement some of my, expenses talking ball is crazy. It is absolutely crazy, man. So shout out to him. Shout out to everybody who's been following and rocking with me on Bleacher Report because, man, Bleacher Report gave me the alley-oop to talk sports and pretty much make a living out of it. So big shout out to them as well, man. It's been great. This YouTube journey has been great, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface right now and really just trying to, figure out our next direction and how we're going to separate ourselves in this new age of media. A lot of people are turning to, these social media platforms like YouTube and Twitch, these streaming platforms. And I think it's becoming a norm now for people, and you have to find a way to be able to separate yourself and create content that is not only engaging but also original. And for the people that have been following me in the music stuff that I do, I've always prided myself on being original, and I've always had that juxtaposition of like keeping it real and going wrong, to be honest. Like that's really what it's been. And like I've always been a true hip hop head, so trying to find success in that without selling your soul has been difficult. And I think, it's no different when you get to talking ball and talking sports. A lot of people don't even want to get content from people that aren't either an ex-player or have so-and-so on their resume and all this experience, man. So to have this many people in here, man, to rock with me is definitely a blessing. So I really do hope that y'all enjoy this Hard Knocks tonight. It's going to be a good one. I know it is. These previews look great. HBO has done a fantastic job with all the previous Hard Knocks. I encourage y'all to just go check some of these Hard Knocks out from the past decade. They're all great. They're all great. I remember the one with DeAndre Hopkins and D'Angelo Hall going at it in practice, and that was the last time we saw D'Angelo Hall. So hopefully a little bit of history gets made tonight with this New York Giants stream. And, being that I'm working on this documentary, for all y'all that are just pulling in, I'm working on an in-season documentary this year with the Beard. We're going to be interviewing fans, beat reporters, a bunch of people. Subscribe to the channel if you don't know what's good over here, man. Definitely going to be bringing some original content this year and whatnot, man. But this Hard Knocks thing, I can't be more excited for this. And I've been doing a lot of studying, looking up NFL films, old school. I'm talking about NFL treasures from the 60s and the 70s, all of the Steve Sabol stuff. Those guys were amazing, and that they, put their foot forward and took initiative to just go out there with cameras and offer the film for the NFL. And that's how we ended up getting what we see today as far as NFL films is just an amazing feat. Big salute to the entire Sabol family. When I look at some of those, throwback videos, especially on the New York Giants, man, it's chilling. And during this documentary, I'm going to be bringing in a lot of old school content for y'all to see, to relive some of these memories, some of the glory days from the New York Giants. It's going to be fantastic. And like I said, the trailer is on the channel. Shout out to Daily Poet. Definitely spotted the Nat King Cole record over here. I think the Beard might have gave me that one. I think so. Yeah, that is Nat King Cole. I got a bunch of soul. That's James Brown next to Nat King Cole. What's that? Oh, that's a Doors record next to that one. And then Celia Cruz is the other one. My girl got me that one. I'm a big record collector. I sample a lot of records, do a lot of hip hop beats and whatnot. That's a great eye because it's blurry, the bokeh on the camera and whatnot. Canadian SP, take a look at the link that we have tagged on the stream at the top that we have pinned to this one, and you should be in the right direction. Y'all enjoy this shit tonight, man. It's gonna be dope. And 10 o'clock, it's gonna air on that HBO, and 9 o'clock on the Max. I'm gonna pop up. I was gonna do a giant overreaction yesterday. It just didn't pan out right, but I'm gonna definitely pop up sometime this week or the upcoming Monday tap in with y'all, try to give y'all a couple of streams. I'm working on a series over here, which I'm calling it like, did the Giants get better? Where I'm going to go through each room or each unit on the roster and talk about if it got better, if it got worse, or if it stayed the same. But definitely, stay in touch. Canadian SP, I see you new in the building. Tap in, man. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to be doing Giants content all year long throughout the season. Check me out on Twitter. It's @Authentic on Twitter, or if you call it X, whatever you want to call it these days. This is how we spell authentic over here. Shout out to JT O'Sullivan. He butchered the hell out of my name. He could not. I guess he ain't, of the hip-hop cloth and don't understand the tagging and switching letters and all that stuff. But we got 3 minutes before this thing starts on Max. If you see me pop up on a stream, it'll likely be on Twitter, just to kind of try to avoid some of the rules and regulations here and whatnot. I might just do a live that just kind of shows what's going on with the Hard Knocks, plug in some of the audio, try to alter it, whatnot, and not get in too much trouble. But those of y'all that are still here, check the link that's pinned up there if you need some access. Tried my best to help y'all out without getting in trouble. Looks like we're okay. This stream is not monetized simply because I wanted to try to deliver some information for y'all. But I'll definitely catch y'all on the next one. Again, man, big shout out to all of y'all. Y'all know how we end every stream over here, man. Oh, and before I do that, after the stream is done at 10 o'clock, go over there to Talking Giants. They're doing a live stream and live reaction. I'm probably going to do a reaction video for the Hard Knocks, but Bobby and Justin are doing a video. Go over there. Tell them we sent you. Authentic in the Beard sent you. Should be a great time in that chat. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people over there. I'll be in that chat as well. Go show them some love. And enjoy this shit, man. Like I said, enjoy this Hard Knocks. It's going to be really dope. Streaming starts in 2 minutes. And I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all know what it is, man. Keep raising that bar. Keep living those dreams because the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound. Rest in peace to the podcast GOAT, Mr. Combat Jack himself. And that's a wrap, y'all. Y'all be good, man.